Hey there, and welcome to That News You Care About, a weekly video game news show from the folks over at That Nerdy Site. Today is Tuesday, August 31st, the last day of the month, 2021. I am one of your hosts, Logan Wilkinson, and joining me this week is my Phoenix son, Trevor Starkey.
Hello.
That's how you do pregnant pauses, Cameron.
Yes, and
so,
that like on this end, that wasn't even a pregnant pause.
Perfect.
There's probably some Discord delay, but like it was me jumping right in off of your thing. So
Perfect. Yeah, we're doing a video game podcast out here. On this week, episode 70, question mark.
should be.
Yeah, we should be. We're doing a kind of look ahead to the final 4 months of the year, like we just touched on here. And there are some big heavy hitters, some which we're kind of reflecting back, or I guess reflecting forward.
Yeah.
Looking forward ahead to the final 4 months of the year and the big games and small games that we're excited about for the rest of 2021. I was really pleasantly surprised at the, I think, amount of games I was really jazzed about and excited about that are coming forward still. So let's just dive right on in.
Yeah, I mean, especially after the like a lot of the heavy hitters have already been bumped to 2022. It's nice to know that there is still like a lot here to look forward to in 2021.
A lot of good things. For the sake of the list I am using, I am just going to GameInformer.com and the list of the upcoming releases of 2021. And beginning on that list, in fact, with a game that comes out tomorrow on September 1st, Lake is my first shout out that I'm very excited for. And also the first case of a game that is going to be a bit more of a struggle for me to play. I have a new MacBook Pro, so maybe on Steam, I'll dust off the old Steam account and play my one game a year on that. But Lake comes out tomorrow actually it comes out today as you listen to this. And it has been one of the games I've been most excited about and curious about and eager just, I think, to spend time in that world since I first saw something about it. I'm 100% sold on this game already. I know that I will, knock on wood, I know that I will love it. I just think everything about it works in terms of like a Logan-esque game. I think it seems very much like a choose your own adventure, story-driven game, character-based game. The world is beautiful. It's, Deadly Premonition-esque minus all the weirdness and jankiness of that game. But in terms of just like exploring this kind of random sleepy town, I think it'll be a priority for me to play this game before the end of the year because I really do think it'll be such an easy slot into my top 10. And so however I can end up playing it, Lake is definitely one of the games I'm most excited about for the next 4 months. Like even if I had to rank it, like it would be in my top 4 or 5 most anticipated games for the rest of the year.
Yeah, this is when I like every time I see the name Lake, I'm like, I know I've seen that one or I've heard about it, but it like just doesn't jostle. And then I go and look at it. It's like, oh, that's right. That's the like you're a postal carrier thing in the 80s. And I'm looking at it on Steam. You can get a demo of it, so you could go check that out if you wanted. But I'm liking this. So obviously releasing tomorrow as we're recording this, September 1st, and about this game. It's September 1st, 1986. So I love that like the game is coming out on like the like in-game like date that you're playing as you do this 2-week stay in beautiful Providence Oaks, Oregon. So yeah, definitely seems like a cool thing. I don't know if I'll find the time to hop in and play it, but if you
all about it,
if you do, and then like give it enough buzz and hype behind it, and maybe I'll give it a shot. Is that one? I wonder if that, because it's also coming to Xbox. I'm trying to think if that's one of the like many Game Pass games where I can just kind of hop in and check it out.
Maybe, yeah. Maybe I'll get an Xbox for Lake and not for Halo. I'll throw it to you next because I don't have my next game for a little bit, and you might have something before me. So, what is the first game on your list?
So yeah, I've got. We talked. I probably have way more games on my list than than you do. The first one I'm going to give a shout out here. I don't know if I'll actually take the time to sit down with this one, but it's definitely caught my eye every time I check it out. And sitting down and like watching the trailer for it again today, I was like, oh, that does look like it's probably going to be pretty cool. And that is Fist Forged in Shadow Torch. Coming to on September 7th. This is that badass bunny 2D platformer brawler where you got like a big metal arm as the rabbit and you're like punching and beating the crap out of things. Just looks like a cool thing. It was shown off in like it was one of those first like I think early PlayStation 5 games that we saw when everything was getting announced last year. And so yeah, that's one that has like continually caught my eye, and it looks like it's like gonna be a little bit more on the like gritty adult oriented like brawler platformer side of things. Like there definitely looks like there's an edge to it, to this like, you know, anthropomorphized rabbit. So yeah, that's definitely one that if I'm like if I find myself in the mood, that's one I'm interested in potentially checking out.
Very nice. My next game is, I think, probably your next game as well, which would be The Artful Escape.
That is one of my next games. I will give a shout out to. It's not on this list, but the Final Fantasy IV Pixel Remaster is supposed to come out on September 8th, the day before The Artful Escape. And Final Fantasy IV is my second favorite in the Final Fantasy series, so I'm looking forward to potentially hopping back into that one on Steam.
You heard it here first.
But yes, Artful Escape.
Yeah,
absolutely.
Artful Escape is going to be great.
That one out.
A game that we all loved at PAX East 2020.
Yep.
I think that game, I still don't, I'm so curious to see what that full game is, but just the opening kind of chunk that we got at PAX, I think is so different and visually just stunning.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I could just spend hours, I think, in that world, the way they've crafted it and the colors they're using, and I think the way that they incorporate music into that game is super cool and really innovative. And again, just like it is Xbox and PC only, but I will find some way to check it out because it is a game that I think is really, really unique and has a lot of promise and potential to it.
Yeah, that one was my game of the show at PAX East last year.
Mm-hmm.
I love the just it oozes with style both in the animation and the music that you kind of touched on there. It is a confirmed Xbox Game Pass game, so I'm definitely going to be hopping into that one, day one or week one, depending on how time allows. And the last we saw of it, Annapurna showed off some stuff when they had their showcase, and I didn't realize until that trailer that like they're bringing in some like actual like voice talent. So much like 12 minutes recently, they're putting the Annapurna weight behind it, and so you have people like Lena Headey, Jason Schwartzman, Mark Strong, and Carl Weathers are all going to be in there. And so like I was already sold on the game, and just like the fact that those are going to be voices within it, it's like, oh, that's like a cool extra bonus, really. But yeah, Artful Escape, very excited for that one.
100%. For me, the next game on the list is going to be Life is Strange: True Colors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you have anything before that. Okay, perfect. It's Life is Strange. I love the series. The first Life is Strange season is probably one of my favorite stories that hit at like just right moment and just right time with like the right cast of characters that I've played, and was part of that absolutely bananas year for video games for me. That didn't consist of any of the actual AAA games, but all of the mid-tier games that just blew me away. And so, I didn't love Before the Storm as much, but I haven't checked out season 2 yet of Life is Strange, but I've heard only good things about it. And so I'm excited to dive back into the series and see what it holds. And I think this has so much promise and potential to it, right? Even in Before the Storm, I wouldn't say I was let down by that. It was just different than what I thought I was going to get, and we just kind of didn't quite hit the same heights. And so the fact that they're able to be a bit more, I think, removed from that storyline, like in season 2, has me really excited and really eager to see what they can do.
Yeah, I never sat down with Before the Storm. So I have not played a
That's
Deck
fine.
9 Life is Strange game. Life is Strange 1 and 2 were Don't Nod, and Before the Storm was Deck 9. They definitely are like, this being a Deck 9 one is tied a little bit into Before the Storm. I don't know what they made a big deal about, like one of the characters in True Colors is going to be one of like your friends from the Before the Storm game. But yeah, I'm very curious about this one. I'm especially curious because longtime Beyond contributor many years ago, podcast Beyond contributor Ryan Clements is one of the writers on this one. So I'm eager to see this thing that he'd been kind of hyping up and kind of teasing out for a number of years. And then I'm especially curious about like just how the power in this one is going to work. Obviously, the original Life is Strange, you can kind of control time. Life is Strange 2, you kind of have like telekinesis abilities and stuff. And this one, I'm curious how like the power of empathy is going to be incorporated into this.
Incorporated.
Even in what was it? Tell Me Why. Don't Nod's last game. They like the ability in that was like telepathy with your like twin, and so it's like I'm curious what the empathy factor is going to be like. But yeah, I'm very excited for Life is Strange True Colors as well. It's definitely one I with like the Artful Escape and Fist in there. I don't know if I'll get to it like day one, especially with what's going to come afterwards. But it's definitely something that will be on my list to check out before year's end.
100%. I think we each have the same next game on this list, which is going to be Deathloop, which comes out on September 14th.
Oh, you're not a WarioWare fan?
I do love a good WarioWare game, but no.
I never got into it.
Deathloop might be my most anticipated game of the entire year that's left. If it's not, it's right there. Oh, man, if this game, like, if it's what I want it to be, it is just going to be something truly, like, incredible. Like, such a, like, out-of-the-box experience that will just check off everything I'm wanting. I think the world is so cool. The characters of it seem so alive. I think the environments, the colors, the style, everything they're doing, I'm totally on board with. And the replayability of it, obviously, I'm on board with. I can't wait to just get lost in Deathloop, honestly. This is a game that, like, I am primed to just spend hours and hours and hours in that world with those characters, I think. And, someone who doesn't have that history with, the prior games from the team, I'm excited for this one to be the first one I'm going to step into that maybe can finally convinces me afterwards to then go back and go through the rest of the catalog.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a huge fan of the Dishonored games, and the only reason I didn't play Prey is because I'm a big old scary baby. So I did not want to deal with that and like cups turning into spider mimics and stuff like that were going to just mess up my evenings. But yes, Deathloop is probably my most anticipated game for the rest of the year as well, especially after it had a seemingly good run of preview coverage. We had last week a lot of people coming out and talking about their first 5 hours with the game, and everybody just being like, this is all the things you love about Dishonored, but like amped up. It is an evolution of the great work that Arcane has been doing for a number of years now. And yeah, I'm very excited to see the finished product.
I'm so excited for this game. If it is one of the handful of games that I think of a real shot at game of the year for me, and I'm excited to really fall in love with that game, and so hopefully that is what happens as the case. Next on the list for me is going to be all the way down at Lost Judgment. If you have anything before that, you are free to step in.
Let's see. Lost Judgment, where does that fall? That's the 24th.
September 24th.
I have 4 games before that one.
Oh, really?
And a fifth one that is not on this list that comes out on the 24th. So let me run through those real quick, and then we'll circle back to you for Lost Judgment. So Skatebird, probably not going to be like, it's not going to be like my game. I'm probably not going to put a ton of time into it, but I was intrigued
Hmm.
enough by the idea that I backed it back when it was on Kickstarter a few years ago. So I will definitely try and put some time into Skatebird, checking that one out. Um, Toem is another one that I want to give some love to, especially because I think it just got kind of its release date announced there on the 17th. This is a little black and white indie game where you're like a photographer and you're taking pictures of things and you use those pictures to kind of like manipulate and solve puzzles in the world. I'm especially intrigued by it because our friends over at Pop Agenda are behind it, and they
Hmm.
are certainly more hits than misses for me. So yeah,
Yeah.
I think that's a promising little title that I'm definitely going to want to check out. The big one is going to be Keen of Bridge of Spirits. I'm very excited for
Mm.
that action adventure game. I've loved the art style and animation look of it since we saw it. It looks very Pixar-esque, kind of in its approach to what it's doing, and it looks like it'll be potentially a more engaging Breath of the Wild like esque game for me, I think. So yeah, I'm very interested in seeing that one when that comes out on the 21st. Um, because it's an Xbox Game Pass game, I'm gonna probably try and check out Sable because I feel like
Mm.
I've seen that at a number of conferences and stuff recently. So definitely see what all the buzz is on that one. Even though right now I couldn't tell you what it's about, but I know like I've seen the name enough, so I'm certainly intrigued by it. And like when I see it, it's like, oh, that looks cool. It's a Game Pass game, so I have nothing to lose on that. And then the last one before hopping back over to you for Lost Judgment, that is not on this list is The Outer Wilds is coming to Switch on the 24th
Mm. Mm.
alongside their Echoes of the Eye expansion. And The Outer Wilds is one of those games I hopped in for like a half hour with it, 45 minutes, an hour maybe, when it originally came out, and was really turned off by like, the flight controls and how movement happens in that game for a lot of that game. But with 2021 being a year of second chances for me for for a lot of games like Hitman 3 and Final Fantasy
Mm.
14, I want to give Outer Wilds a second chance when this expansion comes out. Probably won't be on Switch, but I'll play it on Xbox or on PlayStation, because so many people that I have similar tastes with and that really enjoy it like would not stop singing this game's praises back when it came out a few years ago. So I want to try and give that one a second go and actually like push through my potential frustrations with the movement controls on it to see what the story it's telling looks like on that larger scale. So those are the rest of my September games. Let's throw it back over to you for Lost Judgment.
Yeah, I mean, if Lost Judgment is just Yakuza, I'm down, right? I mean, if it's that's kind of the simple surface level approach
Yeah.
to
Did
it.
you
But I
play
think
Judgment?
no,
Okay.
but I had wanted to, right? It was just one of the games that I didn't kind of get around to, and so I think that's the really surface level, easy approach to it. And then I think if it's obviously way more than that, which it is, and it seems like it is going to be kind of, I think, a different kind of game and different kind of direction than where Yakuza is now increasingly going, which is just like transcended genres at this point. I'm all about that, right? I would love to fall in love with that world, that cast of characters, and kind of that gritty but also colorful side that they've kind of crafted in these kind of solid games. And so I'm actually pretty excited for Lost Judgment.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will also give a brief shout out
I just wanted just on
to
Lost Judgment. I wanted to add. Well, I spent like a good chunk at the beginning of the year playing through a bunch of the Yakuza games,
yeah.
and really like when I played through like 1, 2, and then 0, and have not gotten back to 3 through 6. But then I played Like a
Okay.
Dragon and had a great time with that. And I love that Like a Dragon and the like Yakuza proper. Also, to be curious where this ends up going because I think like the Yakuza director is being poached. I saw articles on that yesterday, I think. Um, but it sounds like the direction they're planning on is like the proper Yakuza series is going to be going down this like turn-based RPG role,
Hmm.
with Ichiban as kind of the protagonist there, where the like traditional Yakuza brawler experience is going to be in these Judgment games,
Yeah.
both Judgment and then now Lost Judgment. So, as having talked to you about Kiwami in particular.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know you didn't like Yakuza Kiwami 2, but it definitely
No.
seems like those will be more in line with, what you'd probably be interested in versus a turn-based RPG.
Yeah. And then also I'll give a brief shout out to Ghost Runner. I think the game could be really neat. I don't really have a ton more to say beyond that, but I think that game could be like a really fun one to kind of dive into over like a weekend.
It is. I played it last year when it came out on last gen consoles and stuff. Because this is the like it's coming to new gen stuff.
New gen consoles, yeah.
And while I
You
liked
didn't
it,
like it, right? I think
it was like brutally difficult, and the like first person, like fast paced. It's because it's basically like first person Hotline Miami, and that just didn't work for me.
Mm-hmm.
At least, like I didn't get far enough to where I was getting like powers that are going to make that a little bit more manageable. So I just got tired of like attempting to do a run and then dying and attempting again. And so yeah, just it didn't click for me. Like I like it in concept more than my own ability to execute on the game. Like if I were better at those kinds of things, if I was a better first person shooter and better at like that, like it's like the kind of thing like I love Portal, which is first person traversal and platforming and stuff like that. But very few things in Portal are like time sensitive, like versus this where it's like you kind of have to always be moving and always be going and just try and like avoid the shots and stuff and take out the enemies and stuff. And it just didn't. I prefer having the time to like recover compared to Ghost Runner. So, but yeah, I mean it's a great game for what it is. It's just didn't work for me.
But that is my last one in September. I think you're done with September as well.
Yep.
We're hopping into October 1st then for my next game, which is going to be FIFA 22. I love FIFA. I didn't get 21. I got 20. So I generally do sports games sort of in that mold of like every other year, every like 3 years, I'll hop back into the next one. When I feel like I've kind of like maxed everything I can do in like the prior iteration. I'm excited, right? I'm excited for the updates. I'm excited for what they're doing. I think that, FIFA is a series that I think routinely, because of being in America, kind of gets slept on by a lot of people, but has also routinely been one of the best sports series. I think that actually does really cool things and actually does evolve the gameplay elements and like manager mode and career mode in really cool ways. I'm also someone who has never hated the like, narrative focused career mode stuff they're doing, that like Madden also did. I think it works really well in FIFA. I think they do I think they are actually able to tell really interesting stories in that. They're not obviously like going to win an Academy Award, but I think they're really engaging at the very least. Mm-hmm. So I'm excited for FIFA. I'm excited to kind of upgrade for that. And yeah, Messi will be on PSG in it. It'll be weird. So that would be my next game.
Did that happen in time for that to be like reflected in the game?
I'm pretty sure, yeah, because usually it's backdated by like July 31st, and that'd have been like just before then, I think.
Yeah, it'd be interesting. I hopped into FIFA 14 as like,
oh wow,
when I like early PlayStation 4 days. I was looking for things to play, because it was a very sparse launch lineup for that, and so I hopped into FIFA 14 and I hopped into NBA 2K 14.
2K, yeah, absolutely.
Put way more time into FIFA than NBA 2K. Like NBA 2K was okay, basketball games have gotten way too complicated. I miss like the NBA Jam and Street Days and stuff like that.
Yeah, you do.
And FIFA, because I think this was also like around like World Cup time or something like that, where I was like going to this like hot dog place that I would go to all the time. Shortleash Hot Dogs. I've taken you there.
Yeah. Yeah.
At the time, it was like a 10-minute walk from work or whatever. So I would go there on lunch or after work, and I would like sit down at the bar, eat dinner or lunch, and watch whatever game was going on at the time. And so yeah, I was just in like a football soccer mood kind of thing, and so I hopped into FIFA for a little while and had a good time with that in those very early PS4 days, where I was like Second Son didn't come out for a few months, so I was looking for things to play.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that's
I
the
think-
last time I've hopped into FIFA.
I do think FIFA is one of the most generous games in terms of hopping into if you're not like a huge sports person, right? I think, like you touched on, basketball games have gotten, increasingly complex in their NBA Street days. Madden is super complex. I think and just because American football is a weird sport there's a lot of rules to follow. And baseball, while I think the baseball games are great, I understand that baseball is not a sport for everyone. Soccer is simple, right? You try to get a ball into a goal, and it's like, I think that simplicity of it, and I think the simplicity of just getting a rough idea of the controls, obviously to master it is something totally different, but to get like a rough idea of the controls is pretty easy to develop. And so I think it allows for newcomers to both sport games and newcomers to just sports in general to ease into it a bit more than a lot of the other sports games. And so I think that's also something that makes FIFA a perfect game for like someone like you, when there's like, there's kind of a lull in video games and there's a World Cup on. It's like, yeah, like I'll just play FIFA for a little bit, right? Like FIFA is a great weekend relaxed game to just play, knock out a couple matches and then do something else.
Yep.
So that's definitely what I'm excited for. Again, I think it was like last summer where I binged FIFA 20, I guess it was, for like a month and a half, 2 months, as my update on every That Nerdy Site show for like a month. FIFA's real good. For me, after that, I won't have anything until Far Cry, if you have anything before that.
So I want to give Jet the Far Shore a shout out, because that's
I knew you were going to, yeah.
It's one, like, it's another one with our friends over at Papa Agenda, but admittedly, like, nothing I've seen on that one has been like, oh, that is a must play for me. Reviews are out now, so I'm gonna like go back and check out a couple of those to see if I'm gonna hop into that one. But I at least wanted to like put it out there as like I might check this one out.
Yeah, same.
And Far Cry for me is a hard pass. I have zero interest in hopping into Far Cry 6.
You're Far Cry out.
I like my note here is I might check it out in January when it's already on sale for like $20. Just like every other Ubisoft game is after, a month or two of being out. So yeah.
I think it works for me because this is the last big game that I will play, like this in FIFA, until we get to November. Right, so this is like, if the game is going to hit for me, this is its time to do it, right? It's like a month free before we get to the next big thing. And so I'm cautiously optimistic about Far Cry 6, right? Like, obviously, my history with Far Cry is very up and down right now. I, as someone who really loved Far Cry 4, again, gave it Game of the Year that year, which, I'm mostly okay with. And then Far Cry 5 came out, right? And I just, that game did not really click with me in any way. I think it made a lot of just not good decisions, and like, terms of focusing on like the wrong villains, and in terms of like the subordinates and the breakout of the map, and just like certain areas being way more interesting than other ones. Like, I just think it didn't work. And it was also too afraid to really do anything with its setting and its story and its like placement. I think Far Cry 6, again, I'm very cautiously optimistic that it will be more willing to take those risks and more willing to kind of make some sort of statements. And like, I know what they say when they give interviews because they have to say it, but like, I do think the game will be more openly political in certain aspects. I do think there will be some room for it to explore really interesting ideas. Because even Far Cry 4, which is by no means a giant like philosophical text, it could at least do some interesting things with the idea that, right, like the revolutionaries are not necessarily any better than who they overthrow, right? They each become corrupted in their own end through their like fervent desire to like have to overthrow pagan men. And I thought that was really cool. And I thought the ending for each one of the like two revolutionary forces was really interesting, how they each became corrupted in their own way. I'd love something just that simple, even, which we didn't get in 5, I'd argue. But I do think there is a potential for them to build off that, right? And I think that the setting is really unique, right? I like the setting. I like the color of the world that we've seen so far. Do I think it's going to be ham-fisted and cheesy at times? Yes. Do I think it's going to be a Ubisoft game and all the pros and cons of that? Yes. But, every now and again you need a big open world sandbox game to cross off stuff on, and this is sort of one of the only ones in this time block that I personally am invested in. And so I'm again cautiously, keyword bold, optimistic and excited for this game. And if I get 5 hours in and I'm like, this is Far Cry 5, then I'll bounce and I'll play FIFA for a month and it'll be great. But maybe it'll hook me.
Did you play either Far Cry New Dawn, which I imagine no, because that was the sequel to 5, or Far Cry Primal?
I played probably about an hour to an hour and a half of Primal.
Because there was a lot of preview coverage that came out kind of today, basically, and some of the stuff I was seeing was people saying it seems like maybe it's a mashup of those two ideas, like the kind of off the wall, like batshit weapons of a New Dawn, mixed with like the base building stuff that is in Primal. I personally look forward to when Giancarlo Esposito, has his intimidating speech to you at the beginning of the game, and then
Trevor's so salty about the villains of Far Cry.
And then you fight his lieutenants for a good half the game, and then you get like a couple other scenes with him, and then more lieutenants, and then you get like a finale with him, and it will pretty much be the exact same like formula of Far Cry 5. I look forward to that eventually happening, and you being like, I hate this so much.
Maybe, and like that, I'm totally prepared for that, right? Like I think the difference is that this comes in the wake of 5 and not 4, right? Whereas 5, I gave it a lot more, I think, of a leash to be like, maybe it'll turn around, though. Maybe it'll turn around, though. Maybe it'll turn around because of how much I had dug 4 and 3, right? And here now, I think we're in a much different place in terms of like Ubisoft and also the Far Cry series. Where like if it's doing those kind of things and if it's not like clicking with me after like 5 or 6 hours, I'm just gonna be like, no, I don't need this. Yeah. Right. Like I think I'll give it less of a leash. And so if it does turn out to be really great for those time periods, even better. Right. Right. Like my expectations are definitely not sky high for this game. Right. Like I don't think it's going to be like my game of the year by any means, but I do think it has a chance to be in my top 10. And I'm excited for that. Right. Like I would hope, I don't ever hope a game to be bad. I hope it is. And we'll go from there. But like I said, that is my last big game that I'm going to give a shout out to until November. There's a couple small ones I'll give like a mentions to as you go on, but this feels like whatever you have next, you can run the table here.
So the one, it's another one that's not on the Game Informer list, but I want to give some love to Moonglow Bay, which also comes out on Far Cry Day. So while you're checking out Far Cry, I will be checking out Moonglow Bay. It's another Xbox Game Pass game, and this is it's got a voxel art style. And it is described as a wholesome slice of life fishing RPG, where you basically like go into it like it's like the Wholesome Games showcase around E3 and a couple other like indie centric kinds of things. And it just like was like, oh, that definitely looks like a Trevor kind of game. It feels like Stardew Valley, but maybe with a little bit more focus on fishing mini games and fishing aspects and stuff. But yeah, just looking forward to checking that one out again. Xbox Game Pass. So even if I hop in and it doesn't end up clicking for me, no harm, no foul. A couple that aren't going to be my thing, but I do want to give like shout outs to them here in case they're things that other people are excited about. Metroid Dread coming out on the 8th for the Switch. I have zero connection to the Metroid series, so
same.
This one just doesn't do anything for me. Similarly on the 12th, Back for Blood. Just not my, like I was never a Left 4 Dead guy, so I'm not interested in hopping into Back for Blood, but I know there are a lot of people excited about that one. So the next one for me doesn't come until Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy late in the month on the 26th. Do you have any prior to that you want to give a shout out to?
I will give a shout out to, I don't have a ton to say, but I'll give a shout out to one to NHL 22 for Jazz. Give her a shout out. Go check out the mascots piece. And then the second one that I'm going to give a shout out to is going to be the Dark Pictures anthology. I really, again, as we talked about on the debut That Nerdy Site stream, I love Until Dawn, right? And I love maybe half of the Dark Picture anthology games I've kind of checked out and played. I think they're a bit hit or miss at times.
Is this
But
the third or the fourth one, House of Ashes?
I think it's the fourth one, I want to say, but don't quote me on that at all.
Because there was like Man of Medan was one, and then there was like another
Man of Medan.
one.
I think Man of Medan is okay. I think that's one I like the best. I think there's one before that I didn't like very much, and then Man of Medan I did like. So maybe it's under the third one.
Yeah, it looks like this is the third one.
But either way, like I think that'll be a fun thing to just like do on like, like a Halloween weekend to just play through that, right? Do like some spooky game times with Shravia and like build our own little like Halloween movie over like the course of a night. I think that could be a lot of fun. And if it's not good, then, no harm, no foul. The games aren't that long. But that's one that I will probably check out around like Halloween, like that weekend, and just see, what's up with it. Maybe it'll be great. I'm totally down for that, right? Like Man of Medan was good. This can be like built off of that. Totally here for it. Maybe they'll each get better each game. So, but I want to give a shout out to that. And then one other shout out that, again, I'm not going to be like, I'm super excited for that game, but I am going to say something for, which is Battlefield 2042.
Mm-hmm.
This game is going to just get swamped by Call of Duty. Just truthfully, from someone who is like the resident first-person shooter, like
as it always does
at like that nerdy site. Yeah, like it's just like I'm just going to spend more time playing Call of Duty for a lot of reasons, both personal and otherwise this year. And so it's just like it has. But I do want to give a shout out to it because, people love the Battlefield games. That has a very strong like community around it. But I think it is even less likely that I will check this one out than usual. I would have loved if they just made a sequel to Battlefield 1 at some point in time. Give me more World War 1 like vignette games. That's super cool, and it made it really innovative and different. I think the World War 2 one wasn't, but anyway.
I mean, that's especially the thing, because Battlefield 2042 doesn't have a single player stuff. It is multiplayer only, and it's like, well, that's...
Yep.
I mean, and it, Battlefield has done that before, but it's like, that's not... I'm not going to be interested in that.
It's not either one of our, As the guy who plays Call of Duty every year for the campaign, it's like, all right, cool, I guess, right? Like, have fun. But yeah, then we're at Marvel's Guardians of the Galaxy. Trevor.
So yeah, this is especially because we talked about on this week's That Nerdy Site show, I'm very burnt out on Marvel's Avengers at this point. And so like when Guardians got announced, I was very like, I mean, I will basically say I fully expect this to be like a peak 7.0 kind of game.
Hell yeah.
But
we love them.
I'm in for that. The fact that it is a single player experience, I'm down for. I like the Guardians as characters, so I'll be interested to see what this interpretation of them looks like, even if it does, so far from what I've seen, feel like it's a little too carbon copy of like the MCU versions. But yeah, we'll see. I'm not expecting a ton, but if I'm looking for something to hop into and reviews are good enough, I'll probably check that one out.
This is a patented for me. You referenced this earlier for Lake, for like if I give you enough buzz about it, you would check it out. This is totally if a Trevor says to try it, I will try this game. I'm totally just like, it seems totally fine. And so like if Trevor comes back and says it's actually a lot of fun, I will check it out, right? And if he comes back and says it is a 6.5 to a 7, I'll be like, that checks out, and I probably won't get to it. But maybe, if Far Cry 6 isn't that great and, I need something to play in the back half of the month, that is a potential game that could do it. The only other thing that I have in the rest of the month is just giving a shout out to Age of Empires 4. I won't play it, but I do love some of the earlier Age of Empire games, and I've just kind of stay away from them because otherwise I won't come back out of like my rabbit hole for weeks. That and like Civilization, I just can't really play anymore.
Yeah, that's fair. Before I hop on to Age of Empires 4, because I have that as a nod as well, I am going to probably check out Solar Ash on the 26th, because it looks like The Pathless, which was a great kind of like this generation launch game that was a little too just like puzzle-ish, I guess, for me. That didn't like it like I enjoyed what I played with it. It just didn't grab me, and so I ended up putting more time into Miles Morales and Bug Snacks and some of those other things that just never really came back to it. But the Solar Ash looks like pathless, like movement and traversal, which was phenomenal, mixed with like a Shadows of the Colossus type of game, which I enjoy that idea. I just hate how Shadows of the Colossus like handles.
Yep.
So if you give me
Same.
like great traversal with like a great concept for that game, I am down to check that out. And then it's just got a great art style and is another Annapurna banger. So that's one I'm going to check out. And then I also have Age of Empires 4. Since I assume it's going to be on Game Pass Ultimate, I can hop in and play that on PC if I want to. I probably won't go too far down the rabbit hole myself, but I did hop into Age of Empires 3 a little bit last year, I think. Or maybe
Hell yeah, you did.
With 3. I think I actually started with like the original Age of Empires and kind of went through like one of those campaigns. I think I even sat down and did like some Let's Plays of it or something. But it was like I am up for some Age of Empires nostalgia for when
Age of Empires.
You know,
so
12-year-old Trevor was playing on PC and stuff like that.
Yep, 100%. Yeah, I love Age of Empires games. I'm done for October, so we're hopping into November. Do you want to talk about Just Dance, or can we just go right to Call of Duty?
No, I will not be checking out Just Dance at all.
Right, so Call of Duty Vanguard is obviously probably the other game along with Deathloop for me that I'm most excited about. And it is both because I love Call of Duty. Hi, that's my thing. I've talked about it pretty frequently. And also because obviously one of our really good friends for both of us, Belinda Garcia, is helped write this game. I'm really excited for what this Call of Duty's campaign can be, the potential it has. I think the writing staff across the board, I think are people I've known and liked for years and liked what they write. And so I think it's the potential to be a really, really cool Call of Duty campaign in a period where we're kind of in this weird up and down, back and forth roller coaster period for Call of Duty campaigns, where they've been either really good and then not good for a couple years and then pretty good and then not great, right? Like, I think Call of Duty Cold War, I think is like that is a 7. That game is like totally fine, and it's got like really cool ideas in there in terms of like you can do these like branch and side mission quest lines that are really actually pretty good and some of the best parts of the game. But then the main campaign is like a weird, cheap knockoff of like the original Black Ops story beat without like any of the tension, because they give away the secret like 5 minutes in, basically. And so I'm excited for a great Call of Duty campaign again. I'm excited for one that does kind of propel you forward, does have engaging characters, and does establish this world, right? I think World War II is a setting that is obviously rife for a really great story with a really great cast. And so I'm eager to see what they can do. I think the locations they've shown off and like the 4 characters they've revealed are all ones that I'm ready to kind of buy into and ready to kind of experience and play through. Stalingrad obviously is one that you can do a lot with, and I think a lot of the best parts of World at War, going way back to 2008, Call of Duty, were set in the Stalingrad area and were set in the Russian campaign. And so I'm excited to see them go back to that with obviously a very different twist to it now. And so, yeah, I mean, it's Call of Duty. It will be I'm sure, a great feeling first-person shooter. They'll incorporate more into Warzone, which is something that I always, love to see. And then it has the potential to be a really standout Call of Duty campaign. And I'm excited for that.
Yeah, I mean, Call of Duty just doesn't really ever hit for me.
Sure, yeah.
But yeah, shout out. It's definitely a mixed bag, because shout out to Belinda and shout out to Alexa Ray Correa. For being on the writing team for that, but also shame on Activision Blizzard for all the abuses that like have occurred at their organization for many, many years and stuff. And it sounds, from all accounts, that Belinda's team did not deal with a lot of those same kinds of issues and stuff, but I'm sure there are some terrible parts of any Call of Duty game that are going to be, affected by something like that. So it already wasn't going to be something that I was likely to hop in on. But yeah, it's just, I'm just kind of, there will be enough for me to play that I don't need to sit down and be like, I'm going to hop into a Call of Duty game. I
Fair
am
enough.
interested in the like post Hitler World War II storytelling that they're doing with it, because I'm pretty sure that's what I saw, like the premise of the campaign is. It's, oh, Hitler's, you're not trying to kill Hitler because Hitler's already dead at this point in the war, and it's just kind of the cleanup of the end of the war. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see what that ends up looking like.
Yeah, agreed. I don't have anything else for the rest of November.
So I have two real ones, but then a potential third one. I'm definitely going to check out Forza Horizon 5 after
Hmm.
getting like surprisingly really into Forza Horizon 4. Admittedly, the thing I played most of in Horizon 4 was the Lego DLC. But the fact that this is set in like Mexico, which is pretty much my backyard,
Yeah,
is like,
same.
it's
Yeah.
going to be like a significant like significantly familiar looking feel of that game. So I'm just very
Yeah.
excited to hop into that for, a weekend or two and just drive around in beautiful looking environments and cars and just having a fun time with that, and see just how good that game looks on my Series X and my OLED TV. Um, we also have GTA making its third console generation run on the 11th.
No.
I basically have here, maybe I'll dabble in with that game again.
Don't be that person. No.
I mean, mm, yeah, I guess if I like, well, I've been like redeeming all of the like $1 million like a month that you can get or whatever for them from a while. Um, so yeah, it's one of those, like, I don't know if I'll actually hop into this one again, but I do like GTA. And especially most recently seeing like Cameron hop into the no pixel stuff, like, reminds me that I
Mm.
enjoy GTA, and I just enjoy that sandbox. So it's tempting. There's probably going to be way too many other things that are going to like pull my attention away from it, and I probably won't actually do it. But I did want to at least put it out there.
I know
But
what your other shout out's going to be.
yeah, my other one is going to be Final Fantasy 14 Endwalker.
Yeah.
I will be working to get my character up to play through everything, so I can hop in for Endwalker and play through some of that with Cameron when that comes out here on November 23rd. Been yeah, just I while I got like super sucked into Hades, I kind of stepped away from Final Fantasy 14 for a bit, but I'm looking very much forward to like hopping back into that and just kind of like continuing to chip away at that one as I continue through the campaign of Heaven's Word, and then Stormblood, and then Shadowbringers, all in the lead up to Endwalker in a couple months' time. So should be able to manage it still have plenty of time, but it's definitely like seeing all of these other games come out, I'm like, oh crap, like I definitely should have tried to get further in this like big summer batch where I was only playing Final Fantasy 14 and Fortnite. But yeah, those are my other November games.
Into December, on December 7th comes one of the most anticipated games I've had for what, God, literally like 6 years now, since 2015, and that is going to be Dying Light 2 Stay Human. I have almost no idea what to expect of this game at this point. My expectations have like been both like sky high and also really low. I just want the game to actually come out that day, and I'll take that as a small victory to begin with. No, I mean, I obviously love Dying Light. I feel like I'm one of the biggest Dying Light champions I know. I think that first game really is something like special and something really unique, and there's not a lot else like the original Dying Light. I think it nails so many different levels of action adventure games and zombie games, and takes cliches and like understands the inner workings of like zombies and zombie stories so well, and then can like subvert them and twist them on their head and constantly have you like knowing where they're going and be both right and still be surprised at how they get there. And so I would love if just from like the right inside, Dynamite 2 can keep that going, right? Can keep you guessing and can keep surprising you and give you a great cast of characters and a great hero. And then also deliver the truly excellent parkour system in that game, and the truly excellent combat system, and the like nighttime dynamics, and fighting the zombies and fighting the horde, and that first game is just so good and so special. And so I'm excited to see what they can do with 6 years built into it and incorporating more of like the choose your own elements of the game, and like only be able to do certain missions, and like not doing some will have those repercussions too. I think that's super interesting. There's a lot, I think, of potential in this game. There's also a lot of room for them to fail, but I'm an optimist. I'm going to hope for the best, and hopefully Dying Light 2 comes out and gives me one last great game for 2021.
Yeah, I hope all that for you and for Cameron as well. I know Cameron is also on the Dying Light train. Definitely, it's a very big nope of a game for me, but like
sure, yeah, totally understand
that. It's one that I want to succeed because I know that Dying Light, especially Dying Light 1, like they supported the hell out of that game and continue to support that game to this day, basically. And so, yeah, I want them to succeed for Dying Light 2, especially after like the seemingly troubled development that they've had on Dying Light 2. Taking a couple steps back, I actually want to give a nod to Advance Wars 1 and 2 Reboot Camp. I never played the original Advance Wars on Game Boy Advance, but I've heard endless great things about them. And I'm a big fan of like that kind of like Fire Emblems, like tactical strategy RPG stuff. So the fact that they're doing a remake of them or reboot of them, I'll probably that'll be like the one thing that gets me to boot up my Switch the rest of the year, really. That I'll hop into and spend some time with that, see how those games hold up with this new coat of paint. And then I'm guessing, since you don't have the Xbox, I'm guessing you're not on the Halo Infinite side of things, but I'm going to definitely try and check out Halo Infinite. It's, debatable whether or not I'll sit down and find the time to go back through all of the other Halos to like bring myself up to speed on Halo Infinite. 'Cause I've only played Halo 1 and 2. It is a bummer that, the co-op stuff isn't going to be there at launch. Because that's the kind of thing like, it would be a fun Let's Play series for, if you had an Xbox or something like that to sit down and go through, like, let's do Halo co-op, especially because I hopped in and played a level with Mario Rivera for his Halo podcast, where we basically like sat in and just kind of like shot the shit over a level of Halo where I'm like, I'm mindlessly going through this, shooting things, trying to not die, and we had a good time just like chatting through that game, because I know that there are hardcore fans of the Halo story and stuff. I don't anticipate I'm going to ever be one of them, but it'd be a fun game to go through and play with another person versus playing solo. Especially that first one is just a pain in the butt playing Halo 1 solo these days. Just
even co-op, Halo 1's rough.
I mean, it's more the level design. So at least having it's not even like having a second person's making the game easier. It's just like at least I can suffer through that with somebody else is more what I'm getting at. So yeah, and again, it is a Game Pass game, so I'm never going to be the person that's hopping into the multiplayer. But as I think we've touched on before, they're doing multiplayer right. I love that like their season pass is going to be like, you can hop in, you can get that season pass at any time. It's not locked in by these arbitrary dates. So if you come to the game a year late, you can still go back to that season 1 season pass, get those cosmetics if you want. You just kind of like select that option and level up that season pass. I hope that games like Fortnite and Apex kind of like take that model and basically like add it to their own their things moving forward, because I think that's just a more consumer friendly way. Obviously, like the reason it's not that way now is because people want you locked in and they want you committed to like playing the game all the time every season. But for people that aren't going to be doing that, I think this is a way more friendly approach. And so even though I'm not going to be the Halo Infinite multiplayer guy, I think that's a really cool way to do it. And yeah, I hope that hits on everything that everybody who's been waiting for that game is looking for. So I'm definitely going to at least check it out, Halo Infinite.
That takes us to the end of the year. So now we're into the giant to be announced section. You have shout outs here, Trevor. And as you go, we can kind of talk through some of the things that you want to shout out. So yeah, just start us wherever you got to start us at.
So the first one I have, because this chunk of it is alphabetized rather than like by release
Mhm.
date, because obviously there aren't release dates. So the first one I have is in the Bees, Bear and Breakfast. This is another one that I think is just going to be like a very chill type game, a la like Spiritfarer was for me last year.
Mm. Mhm.
It very much seems like
Mhm.
a management sim kind of game where you are a bear running a bed and breakfast. Very simple, like straightforward concept, and
Love that idea.
I
Yeah.
I've loved it when I've seen like little trailers of it here and there. So definitely interested in checking that one out on Switch and PC whenever that comes out, presumably by the end of the year. Next one I have that I just at least put down here is the fact that Cyberpunk 2077 is on this list for the next gen launch, the PS5, the Xbox Series X, because I'm laughing at the idea. I already played through the game on Xbox last year, but I bought the PlayStation version of the game because it was going to have like the free upgrade to PS5, and I think it is hilariously terrible that I still can't play that
Yeah.
PS5 version. And I
Sure.
like as I was looking through this, I thought to myself like, when is that going to come out? And then like 5 minutes later, I saw people online, like I saw Zach Ryan from IGN out there tweeting like, when is this game going to come out? And being like, yeah, pretty much.
I
So
do
yeah,
want to give a shout out because you just hopped over it to Crisis
Mhm.
Remastered Trilogy.
Okay,
Um, Depending on when that comes out, I might hop into that. It like definitely depends on like what if it hits this year at all,
yeah,
or B if it comes in like October, that's like the best month for it to hit, or like maybe late November post like finishing Call of Duty. Or, like those are the windows where like if it hits, that could work for me, and so I would definitely be down to check out at least some of those games again. I mean, I've never even finished the series. I've only spent a very brief time with like the first one even, and so like I'm down to like hop into them again. Those games looked beautiful to begin with, almost like what 15 years ago now.
and it's yeah. The
So
only thing I can think of with Crisis is that Crisis was always the game that was like the benchmark of how good your PC was. It was like,
yeah,
can your PC run Crisis? No, okay, then it's not a good PC. Like I
yeah,
remember that just for the longest time. I didn't realize that they'd made like three at this point, and let alone that it was getting
yeah.
remastered. But sure, like push the graphics for a new generation of systems.
So yeah, wherever you're going after Cyberpunk.
So after Cyberpunk, the next one on my list is another one that's not on this list proper, but the Final Fantasy 5 and 6 pixel remasters are supposedly going to come out by the end of 2021. Obviously, Final Fantasy 6 being the real one that I'm interested in hopping back into because it is one of my all-time very favorite games. So yeah, that's one. The next one I have is actually a very interesting one because I was looking through this list and I was like, what's Let's Build a Zoo? And I went and looked at Let's Build a Zoo,
Ooh,
and then I was like, this is a Trevor-ass game. And so I sat down and
ooh,
recorded a
is
Let's
it?
Play of it today as well.
Did you really?
That we're gonna do that, yeah, because it is there's a demo that you can get on Steam right now. So yeah, my Let's Play of the Let's Build a Zoo demo is gonna go live next week. It is basically a park simulator kind of thing, like a a
Oh
roller
hell
coaster
yeah! Mm-hmm.
tycoon kind of thing, but with you're building a zoo, and it is a very it's very like pixel art style kind of thing, and yeah, just very fun little sim
They
man.
had a Zoo
Another sim
Tycoon
management
game too, and I loved Zoo Tycoon. I liked Zoo
Yeah,
Tycoon more than Roller Coaster Tycoon back in the day.
yeah. So that's that same kind of vibe. Like you build out your enclosures, you import animals from like around the world, and then you're building gift shops and other things like that. The last thing I do, one of the last things I do in the demo that I was playing, because it's I mean I don't know how big the demo is, but I recorded 45-minute maybe let's play of it for next week. But you get a CRISPR like DNA splicing lab, and you can basically like create hybrid animals. And so like in the demo, I start creating a hybrid rabbit slash hippopotamus that's going to be like a tiny hippopotamus theoretically. So
Monster.
yeah, it'll be interesting to see just the kind of like weird creatures that you can create in that game. But yeah, so that would like I went from like having maybe seen a trailer of that before today
Mm-hmm.
to seeing it on this list being like, what is that game? Looking at it and being like, oh yeah, I definitely am going to want to try and check that game out. So assuming that game comes out in 2021, I will try and find some time for it. My note here was 1000% my jam, but I don't know if I'll find time for it if it comes out this year. Next one I have is Loop Hero. It's basically like it's coming to Switch, but my actual note is I actually already own it on PC. I just need to circle back and actually sit down and play it, because that was one that earlier in the year that a whole bunch of people were like getting behind, and it was a big, game on Twitch for a little while there, and just seems like a cool, interesting, different approach to a roguelike game where you're basically building the roguelike dungeons, and like you're the dungeon master, and the characters are going through the dungeon or whatever, and so it's like, oh, that seems interesting. So yeah, I definitely want to circle back around to that one and check it out. Have we come upon any new games for you on this list?
Nope.
Okay. The next one I have is a game called Nobody Saves the World. That is Xbox Series X and PC. It is the next game from the team over at Drinkbox Studios, aka the team behind Guacamelee and Severed, which I was a huge fan of. It is absolutely a yes, 100%. But I'm also going to point out that this list is out of date because they have already pushed that game to 2022. And they pushed it to 2022 with a recent announcement that it's going to feature online co-op multiplayer. So I also made the note Trevor. Here. This is definitely a thing to check out with Logan for next year.
Absolutely. I don't talk about it that much, but like the original Guacamelee I absolutely love that game. I think it is so cool and such a cool world, and the people you encounter along that game, the story that game tells, and just the vivid colors of the original Guacamelee. That game is so special. All about this. This would have been my next shout out as well. 100% on board. Again, it isn't going to come out in 2021, but absolutely we are going to wreck shop in Nobody Saves the World. Absolutely.
Yeah. Next one I have is it's another one that's not on the list here, but it's whenever the series of Playdate games comes out. Playdate is the little like novelty console that has like the hand crank thing. I have one of those on order, and it's supposed to come out by the end of 2021. So I look forward to hopping in and seeing, just the fun little ideas that some developers put into that, because I played one of those games at PAX West 2019, I think. And I was like, this is a cool little idea. I wonder how other games will like execute on having this little crank mechanic, or if other people are just using like the A and B buttons that it has, and just kind of doing like throwback Game Boy games. But yeah, so I look forward to checking out like the 20 some odd games that I think are coming with that at launch. So that is the next one on my list.
I want to give a shout out to Open Roads.
Cool.
Again, as someone who loves Gone Home, and I think appreciates likes Tacoma, right? Like that's one where like maybe going back without that built-in expectation of it being the follow-up to Gone Home, I would like that game more. Like I think just building that much expectations onto it. But I love the idea behind Open Roads, right? Like I love the premise of it. I love the idea of it. The cast is great. Obviously, its production is incredibly troubled now, and with Steve Gaynor certainly leaving from his like creative director role into like whatever writing role he's now undertaken, that all leaves a lot of questions for me. But I am so excited for what the team at Fulbright has been doing with Open Roads. I am pretty skeptical at this point that it'll come out this year.
Yeah, I think even in the article that they had about Steve Gaynor, it was like, people with knowledge don't expect that game to come out in 2021.
Yeah, like I would be pretty surprised if it did, but I am pretty excited for this game. And whatever story they tell, I will at least check out. These games are never that long, and yeah, I'm excited for it. I don't think it's gonna come out this year, but I wanted to give a shout out to that real quick.
Yeah. The next one I have is a game called RPG Time: The Legend of Wright. This is one that I originally kind of like passed over on this, but then I went back. I was like, what is that one? I feel like I've seen that one, and this is the game that looks like basically somebody has drawn an RPG in like a notebook. It's like a hand drawn thing. Like you're flipping through pages. Like art styles are changing all the time. I'm mostly intrigued by like how that actually plays out, because it very much looks like it's gonna have like it's like Paper Mario meets like almost the Drawn to Death art style, and Drawn to Death, as dumb as a game as it was, had a really cool looking art style that like I was intrigued by. So RPG Time is one that I'm like very intrigued by, because I love that hand drawn art style that they have. Per a recent ID at Xbox showcase, it's slated as like coming this winter, so we'll see if it hits 2021. But it's definitely one that I'm like, that looks like it'll be a cool throwback thing with, if anything else, just like it fucking looks amazing. So yeah, that's definitely one I want to give a shout out to. After that, I have She Dreams Elsewhere, which is another
that's what I was going to shout out.
RPG throwback that I've been excited about. It's, I think, another one since like PAX West 2019. I played it at PAX East last year, and it plays exactly what I'm looking for. It's, you know, a turn-based RPG in the vein of your Earthbounds and like your early Persona stuff. And so yeah, I think that's another one's gonna have like a really cool style and intent behind it. And the dev, I remember talking with him. You know, it's like he's been cool, and it's very much like a take as much time as you need on that. So if it doesn't end up hitting 2021, no harm, no foul. But I'm very much looking forward to She Dreams Elsewhere when that one comes.
100%.
We'll see if it hits. I know it's coming to Xbox. I don't know if it's a Game Pass game planned for Xbox, or if it's just going to be like Xbox exclusive, timed exclusive kind of thing for a little while. But yeah, that's definitely one that I'm excited about.
Yeah, George Cruz really big on that game at PAX East last year. Yeah, I agree. It looks super interesting and really unique. And even if it's not a game that I necessarily will love, it's one that I will probably at least try to check out, because it just seems really, really cool. I don't have anything for a while after this, so you can.
Okay, so the next one I have is the Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe, because I saw this on the list. I was like, that still never came out, because I was like, I remember when they did like an announcement trailer of it coming to console, I was like, that's very exciting, because I've heard great things about this game. It seems like a Portal type of game. I'm intrigued by it. And so I went down the rabbit hole today of like, it was announced for consoles at the end of 2018 as the Ultra Deluxe version. And then in November of 2019, it was delayed to 2020. And then in August of 2020, it was delayed to 2021. And like, they, at least to their credit, are always incredibly creative in their delays. In the 2019 delay into 2020, they did like a video of quote letters from their fans, and all of them were like letters basically being like, I really love the Stanley Parable, and I don't think you're going to like be able to do it justice by getting it out here in 2019. So please delay it to 2020. And so the narrator, the Stanley Parable narrator's like, well, because people are clamoring for it, we're going to abide by this audience, and we're going to push it to 2020. And then when they delayed it in 2020 to 2021, they basically used like a lot of the same templates that other studios had been using for their delays, and just like did like a very, you know, crappy paint cross out of like the name of the game from like the original delay, and like put in Stanley Parable Ultra Deluxe like as like crappily as they could. And they had like a thread of those kinds, like 3 or 4 of those announcements, include like one of them is like the Cyberpunk announcement, but instead of being like bright yellow, they put it in like gray or whatever, but it's still, I'm pretty sure, a verbatim Cyberpunk delay announcement. One of them is the Deathloop delay announcement. And then I don't remember what the third one was. The third one looked like it was a Miles Morales, but Miles Morales didn't get delayed in 2021, so I don't know what that one was, but it was very clearly like Miles Morales, and then like they put somebody's face on Miles instead of like the Miles thing. So it's just, they've been at least very clever on how they've delayed that game. So who knows if it will continue, if it will get another delay into 2022 at this point. or if it will actually come out in 2021. But that's definitely one I'm intrigued by more than anything for like the humor that team
Mhm.
clearly has behind them. And then this last one
Um.
that I have,
Oh, I might have one before you.
okay,
What letter is yours?
it's still a T.
Okay. My last one is going to be Those Who Remain,
Okay.
which I checked out at PAX East last year,
Hmm.
and it's rad. It was one of my favorite experiences. I think it was Cameron also really dug the game. In fact, I think he ended up getting the like PAX preview appointment for it. Um, Those Who Remain, if that game, I think is super rad. I love the art style of it. It is very kind of like this like neo, like synthwave, like pop, like dark blue colors. And like in the poster image, you can just see it right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's rad. I think I don't really know if the game is going to come out this year. And again, like a lot of games list, I would probably say it won't. And maybe you would even argue it shouldn't because I think it will just get kind of swallowed up if it does. I think this is a game that much more benefits from like a, January to like May release window. But I'm actually really excited about this game. I'm excited to talk about Cameron with it too whenever it does end up coming out. And I think it is weird and creepy and atmospheric and fun and all these different emotions really well. And yeah, I'm excited for Those Who Remain.
So this is a head like Those Who Remain is out. This is just the Switch port of it, but like it's
Oh,
already
is
on.
it?
Yeah, it's already on
Oh
PlayStation.
shit!
I
Well, this is
believe.
breaking news, guys.
Yeah.
May 15th. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, you can already hop in and play that one if you want, Logan.
Fuck. Oh
Um,
fuck!
yeah.
That's exciting.
There you go. But bonus. Yeah, the last one
Oh
I
shit!
have on here is I don't know if I'll end up trying to check it out because I think it's probably going to
Is it
be one of
really?
those that just ultimately doesn't hit for me. But it is Tunic. Um, it
Mm.
is often kind of
Mm-hmm.
like viewed as a Zelda-like game, not a Breath of the Wild
Yeah.
like a more classic Zelda game, but in reality, it's a little bit more brutal in its combat stylings, and it's a little bit more like Souls-like than Zelda-like probably
Mm-hmm.
to a lot of people. And I remember that being like the the predominant feedback that people gave at when they did demos of it over E3 this year. Um, it's something I played, God, like 3 years ago now at PAX or something. PAX West 2017, maybe. God, it might have been back in 2017 or 2018. Whichever one I was actually at, because one of those I skipped. But like I remember playing it there and like love the art style of it. Um, it just was very much like, oh, this is definitely a difficult game, and I didn't know if it was a difficult
Mm.
game to try and like keep people moving off of it at a PAX show floor. If like the demo was just very difficult, um, and having heard more people play like newer versions of it, it seems like no, it's probably just going to be a very difficult game. So it's probably not gonna ultimately be for me, but I did want to give that one a shout out as like a I'm intrigued by that at the very least. And if it does, like
Mm-hmm.
if people really really rally behind it, I might give it a shot. If there are like manageable difficulty settings or something like that. If it is just like no, it's gonna
Mm-hmm.
kick your teeth in, I'll probably pass it by. That's my
Sure.
last one.
I think it's fair. That is it though. Those are all of the games, lots of them, in fact, that we are excited about for the rest of 2021. Um, yeah, I'm pretty excited about the rest of this year, actually, Trevor. I think there are a lot of great games and not so great games, and maybe in between games that are going to come out that we will play, and I'm excited about that. After what has been kind of a really slow, I think, first 2/3 of the year, really going to start hitting some really neat little video games coming out. But otherwise, that is it. Trevor, you have a shout out to bring forward, so bring your shout out.
Yeah, so I want to give a shout out to this is a Paste Magazine article titled "This is not a Diablo 2 Resurrected Open Beta Preview" by Holly Green, because I thought it was an interesting piece that she approached because she is a longtime fan of Diablo 2 and is very excited for the like remaster, the Resurrected like remaster of Diablo 2 that's coming out, and played the open beta, but she basically turns this like open beta preview into like, hey, rather than telling you about like whether the game's good or not, let's talk about the Bloomberg article and the lawsuit against Activision Blizzard and the issues within that company, and how to juxtapose like really wanting to enjoy Diablo 2 Resurrected against all of that shit that's going on behind the scenes of that company. So I thought it was a very interesting approach to the article, especially like from the title alone. It's like, okay, yep, this is definitely kind of making those feelings known to try and address those issues. So yeah, I thought that was just a cool little piece. You can go check out.
Please do. I like Pace. They have a lot of great pieces over there. Actually, I will give a shout out to two things that are tied together. First one is the No Time to Die trailer came out today, and I got a bot tweet at it, and I loved that. I just say James Bond enough, and they know to put me on some sort of list somewhere. And in that, someone at work today in the work like film Slack channel put in a Chubby Broccoli, who is kind of the main creative like force behind the James Bond series, article into the Slack channel. I was trying to find it on Mind. I couldn't find it, so I'll link it. I'll grab it and link it to Trevor after the fact. But it's like a 10-minute long like read in terms of like the read time it has. It's really interesting though. I mean, again, the James Bond behind the scenes production stuff is like really weird and wild, and it's great. And like Chubby Broccoli and like Albert Schultzman is like the two guys who made it happen, and then one peeled off, and then Chubby Broccoli just kind of passed it on to his like family tree. Yeah, like to tie it back into one of the podcasts we did yesterday as of recording this, and Star Wars, James Bond is a weird series, and it shouldn't really exist or work as well as it does, and it sort of doesn't, but like it just keeps going in spite of that. And so like I always really enjoy getting any sort of like, you know, article or reading anything about James Bond, because it's always such a weird little, I think, peek behind the curtains of this really bizarre film franchise that takes like, that is constantly run into like legal troubles and squabbles and like family splits and problems. And so yeah, it's really a good article. I really enjoy it, and it kind of tees into No Time to Die coming out in a month or two, allegedly, unless they push it again. So I encourage everyone to go check out that. And the No Time to Die trailer was fine. I don't know. I like I told, I think I texted back to her like, they're trying to be like the Dark Knight Rises in terms of like, it is the end of an era. Like, what will happen? Like, no more James Bond. Like, they're like incorporated in footage from like all of his prior like James Bond movies from Daniel Craig. The problem being that fact that like Dark Knight Rises felt special because like it very much felt like there was a real chance for Christian Bale's Batman to die, and like that would be the end of that era. Like it like there'd be another Batman movie eventually, obviously, but like that period of that period of Batman would end, and it would have real consequences. It made him build into that moment really effectively, and there would be a gap of a few years. We had no idea how many years before the next Batman movie. Versus with James Bond, it's like, I don't think, truthfully, they have it in them to kill James Bond. But B, if they do, there'll be another James Bond movie in 2 years, right? Like it's like I feel like any sort of punch they're going for is diminished. And the best time to have done it, I think, for what it's worth, would have been in Skyfall or Spectre. It would have actually made Spectre maybe somewhat interesting. And so I'm excited for No Time to Die. Obviously, like I am curious about this idea of like them actually giving an ending to a James Bond arc, right? Because we talked yesterday on the Star Wars Patreon exclusive podcast about how the Sean Connery era is a like set defined series of movies that all follow one another like sequels, but that one never got a proper ending in some ways because of the fact that Sean Connery left, right? And so then they brought in George Lazenby to do the next one, and then he left, and Sean Connery came back, and like they kind of gave it an ending, but like it doesn't really. It just feels very kind of rushed and muddled because they had to kind of like pivot really quickly. And so it is going to be interesting to see what a actual ending to a James Bond arc will look like. But I just don't know how much I trust them to do it. But I'm still very excited. It looks really great. I love the director behind it. And, you know, if Daniel Craig is actually excited to be James Bond, the movie will be good. So anyway, that would be my shout out. Otherwise, that's the show. We did it. Good job, Trevor. If you like what you heard, you can go over to patreon.com/thatnerdysite, like all of the wonderful patrons and supporters have. Their support means the world to us, helps keep the lights on, and make shows like this and like that D Plus show happen. Otherwise, you can go over to patreon.com/thatnerdysite again to support us and go check out all the tiers and gadgets and goals. You can also go support us by liking, subscribing, sharing with your friends, and rate and reviewing us on iTunes, SoundCloud, Stitcher, Mixer, all the good things. Leaving us reviews, telling us why you like us.
Mixer still once again not a thing anymore.
And going over to youtube.com/thatnerdysite and liking and subscribing to the videos, just having them play in the background while you're going and taking, you know, Mathematics 101. All of it's great stuff. Otherwise, you can go over to thatnerdysite.com and you go check out all of the latest articles, reviews, features, and podcast episodes that go live over there as well.
And it's really only podcast articles or podcast like the little like blurbs for our podcasts. We have very few written things over there.
Otherwise, you can go over to @TrevorJStark on the internet. And Trevor, anything you want to shout out or plug?
I will shout out the Let's Plays that we do every Tuesday and Thursday. I have officially just wrapped up the Hades Let's Play series. I was able to get my first clear in the God mode run that I was doing in 9 runs. So run number 9 is the culmination of that series. And like keep an eye out for tomorrow's, as this episode goes live, tomorrow's Let's Play is going to be Boyfriend Dungeon. And then, as I said earlier, I recorded a Let's Build a Zoo Let's Play for next week. So keep an eye out. Every Tuesday and Thursday we have new Let's Plays going up on youtube.com/thatnerdysite.
100%. Trevor is doing great work over there, as are all the people doing the Let's Plays. So go check out all of that. Otherwise, you can go find me at Lefty Logie or Lefty Logie on the internet. I will also plug the YouTube channel, but I will also give a shout out to 2 things that are kind of connected. The first is last week's episode of That D Plus Show, which was the culmination of the summer of Star Wars that had Trevor, Cameron, Frank, and special guest Christian all come in together to talk about Star Wars in its entirety. Empire of Dreams is a documentary that was kind of the launching pad for the larger discussion, and all give their list and rankings of the various Star Wars movies. And then tied into that, I will also give a shout out to the Patreon exclusive episode of That Nerdy Site Show, where myself and Trevor sat down. Yeah, I had to think about this. Sat down and talked about Empire of Dreams, and then also my rankings of Star Wars. Talked about a little bit of its connections, what makes Star Wars special, what makes it so weird, what makes it so unique. And I thought I had really good conversations around that, around why I love Return of the Jedi so much and Luke.
Yeah.
And also Trevor had an incredible production job and put it together, even despite all the different stops and breakups and Discord fans it had.
Yeah.
I thought it was, in spite of that, a really good conversation, and I really enjoyed talking about Star Wars with you. So I give a shout out to that as well.
Yep. Available for anybody $1 or above on Patreon right now, or for everybody public at the end of September.
It's worth $1. That was a great conversation. Otherwise, that's it. That's the show. You can go find us over at thatnerdysite.com and at thatnerdysite on all the things on the internet. Otherwise, for myself, for Trevor, for all of us here at That Nerdy Site, play your games and be good to each other.